everybody. Let's see. I think the button says we're live. So yes, indeed. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Greetings. Thank you, all the moderators and the rest of the Soul Tribe. Welcome. Favor be upon you. May there be nothing missing, nothing broken in your life. And we have one of our own and returning guests, Nancy Addison, and we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to get into this. We were in fact talking about this before we got live. All of us are experiencing new kinds of stresses, and Nancy and I are going to get into this, and many of you are already aware of this. So Nancy, how are you? Good to see you again.
Thank you. I'm great. And so happy to be here. Just such an honor.
I tell you, I love your energy and your knowledge. Who would have guessed 6 months ago, because you are all about good nutrition that has, and the benefits of it are, they're self-speaking. But who would have thought that in 6 months, the world would have changed, and all of us today are experiencing new kinds of stresses that the majority of the population have never experienced before. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, it's new for everyone around the world, and it doesn't matter who you talk to. They can be in Brazil or Peru or South Africa, and they're all having very similar experiences. And so we are truly united worldwide right now.
We are, and you and I were just talking that, just think about it. So first we had this virus, the subsequent self-lockdown, stay in place. Many cases lasted 2 months. That invoked a kind of stress. And in fact, I just read in JAMA, the medical science, that they're deeply concerned because what they're now finding out, that this suppression of keeping people in their home, close vicinity to family members, which is not always healthy, just not. And now they see these whole new psychoses coming in. And then we had the economy. Now this is stress upon stress. You had shortages in the store, stress upon stress. And, people in America, they'll be announcing it tomorrow, probably hitting 43 million Americans out of work. Actually, the true number is closer to 60 million. We now have this unrest taking place, which started here in America and is now infected the rest of the world. These are type of stresses humans have never had to experience all at the same time.
Right. And so, there are certain things that people can do. Many of them are absolutely free that help you deal with some of this.
Free is good. Always good. Well, what are some of those ways?
Oh, one of those is quite literally laughing.
Well, who would have thought? We never do that on this channel. Never.
Laughing, even if you have to fake it till you make it, you just kind of just start laughing. It will actually take you out of the fight or flight mode, which prevents your immune system from functioning properly, as well as it could. And so laughing, you have to be present to laugh. You can't be worried about something. You can't be all concerned about the future. You just are there. And so one of the things that we've actually implemented where I am is taking time every single day to have fun. Do something enjoyable, play a game, go for a bike ride, or, go play in the garden, and just kind of find the humor in whatever it may be. Might be, finding some jokes or, an old funny movie on the TV. But, like I was watching Mary Tyler Moore the other night with someone, and actually found myself laughing out loud. And it really does, it pulls you out of that heavy, deep, worrisome mode. And
Yeah. I am one that found that in my magic studies that laughter is a spell breaker, that
okay.
no evil can stand in the presence of genuine laughter. And it works. I mean, like you said, you can't be worried and laughing at the same time. Well, I'm thinking of Vincent Price, so I mean, maybe but other than that, Lon Chaney or something, and you got me thinking now, because you and I grew up in a time where, the Wolfman, Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff, Vincent Price, they brought a certain part of the human experience out that, in a lot of ways, I think it enhanced our overall point of view. But anyway, it was a little
Well,
more.
I'll have to tell you, I could never watch those scary shows. Those would give me nightmares. So I had to watch things like Doris Day and the Glass Bottom Boat, or
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, that's good.
or Jack Benny movies. Or
I had a crush on Doris Day. I mean, back in her day, I mean, she was a very attractive woman. So my first crush was Glinda, the Good Witch of the North in The Wizard of Oz. I think I was 4 years old. Yeah. And, anyway, I digressed. But it's laughter.
truly.
It's freeing, isn't it?
It really is. And what happens is if we get anxious about something, we tend to just breathe up in our lungs. And they call it top lung breathing.
Ah,
And if you are laughing, you are breathing deeply down into your diaphragm, and you're really getting that oxygen. And the Heart Math Institute in California did studies and found that deep breathing, like in a meditation and focusing on something joyful, will quite literally, if you can do that continually for 3 minutes, will actually ignite your own stem cells to start working again and take you completely out of fight or flight mode. So it's incredibly healing. And so meditating is another good thing people can do. And if you meditate even like 20 minutes on a daily basis for 3 to 4 days, you can boost your immune system by 50%.
wow.
It's, and that
Wow.
is, and that's so easy. And people can do this, wherever they are. And
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how knowledge, and again, I'm looking on kind of a more of a, let's say, esoteric level, that we learn these practices, never realizing that it's giving our bodies these benefits, boosting your immune system by 50% by meditating and learning how to deep breathe.
right. And
That's free.
there are some, if anybody has a computer, there are free videos and meditations online, and Joe Dispenza has some really great ones. And some of them are about 20 minutes and some of them are 25 minutes. And so if you've never meditated before, you just breathe really deeply and you get still and you try to just shut off that racetrack in your brain.
Yeah. That is the number one challenge we all have to face it. I've got those, what I call the dust bunnies. I mean, they're thoughts that are just going zing, 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 and you have to get them from quit zinging. I put them in a box. I do.
Well, it's interesting, but we have been getting so much conflicting information from everywhere. It's hard to know what is the truth. And so if you can meditate and just, really calm your mind, it can help you focus and see the truth more effectively, I think. And then
Yeah.
also, we're energetic beings. And so we have a vibration. And when we can keep our vibration high, then we are healthier and our immune system functions better. So, this is really important, and we can choose what we put in our mind and what we choose to think about and how
Yeah.
we choose to react to things. So this is something that is, I think, a very important thing that we should be practicing.
Yeah, and don't be watching the TV. The news, folks, will drive you bat crap crazy. I mean, uh, wow, there is like no respite from that taskmaster. I mean, yeah, I know it's important to keep up with some of the events, but um, we had a situation and it was on the background the whole time, and you get to the point where you're just going, get me out of here. I mean, this is it's yeah, it really does invoke that negativity everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Our neighborhood got tagged this morning, and I was surprised because we're way out there, but yeah, and this kind of invokes stress because when people see this, I know many of my neighbors, they will become fearful of that. And fear has a way of spreading again, and this compromises our immune system.
Right. It really does. And also, this social distancing thing
Yeah.
was quite literally the professor who implemented that said he just pulled it out of thin air. There are literally no studies to support it. And then, on the contrary, there are unbelievable amount of studies in psychology today and the medical community that shows that the more hugs someone gets and the longer, deeper, loving hugs, the less likely they are to get sick or to have a virus. They've even tested it with viruses, but people's immune systems get so strong from connection and hugging. And and even smiling can raise your serotonin levels and make you feel better. So, we just kind of have to smile, and it will make your brain think that you are doing great. It's amazing.
I want to talk about this social distancing because it's the most asinine thing I've ever heard of. I mean, again, I read today, and I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, which said studies are now coming out by scientists who say, well, maybe the COVID-19 is that, and they're saying that they're seeing this in the lab, is losing its potency. What if this turns out to be, oh crap, this was something that was never what it was supposed to do, but now we've got the ramifications from this. I mean, you're right. It's hard to trust what is right, what is left, what is up, what is down.
Right. And then all the doctors and people that I've listened to use that hydroxychloroquine with zinc and are having incredible success with that. And of course, President Trump took that. And I
Mhm.
think the president of El Salvador is taking it. And so they were questioning President Trump about that. And he had the head of the Veterans Administration on in one of his news updates. And the head of the Veterans Administration said they've been using it successfully for malaria for 65 years with great success. And on any given day, presently, they hand out about 42,000 doses of that. And it is a prescription, but the doctors that I've talked to, and there is a couple in Dallas, that have been using it with great success with 100% of their clients. So, this has got really about a 98 to 99% recovery
Yeah, yeah.
chance. And over in Italy, Germany, and Japan, they've actually been doing autopsies, even though the World Health Organization told them not to. And they've been not finding any virus in any of the people that supposedly died of it. And they're finding that the blood is actually thicker, and it's like coagulated. So they're like, people are not getting oxygen into their blood. And so in these places where they've installed 5G and things like that, um, what these electromagnetic fields that they're rolling out around the world do is they prevent your iron ion in your hemoglobin from taking in oxygen.
Hmm.
And so I don't know, I'm wondering if that's really what some of this is.
I'll talk to Lynn about this. I like, because I want to get an ox monitor to see, and that's the best way to tell, exactly what your body is absorbing in oxygen.
Mhm.
Ideally you want it above, 94% thereabouts, and but most people don't know what the oxygenation levels of their blood is.
Right. And it needs to be by OSHA standards. And I was married to an environmental trial lawyer for 23 years. So I know all about
That does get you down in your soul.
But OSHA has very strict standards for workplace oxygen levels. And if you get below 19.5 in your body, it can cause permanent brain damage. And if you look at all of the major medical groups, including JAMA, the Journal for the American Medical Association, every one of them says you should never wear a mask if you're healthy. And one of the reason being is you're breathing in old bacteria and your CO2 over and over again. And viral experts that I've been listening to say that can actually make you sicker. I talked to an endocrinologist the other day who said he read a study that said it can actually cause a 40% chance of rise in cancer, and it can prevent you from getting enough oxygen in. So if anybody is working and having to wear a mask, they should be monitoring your oxygen levels continually in that mask all day long and make sure that you are not getting below 19.5, because they would be breaking federal OSHA regulations by doing that.
Never heard, and this is valuable information. It's I'm no doctor, but I do realize in writing on this years ago, pandemics, is that we are supposed to be exposed to viruses. That's how our immune systems grow, right?
Yep.
Yep. I mean, it's like trying to put masks on toddlers when they all come together at daycare. I mean, that's a petri dish. And but that's how us humans, that's how we become stronger.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly right.
And I'm seeing all this, and it's just, I don't know. This is the other thing. When the cognitive mind cannot rationalize the information that's coming in, and that causes cognitive dissonance. And that causes a stress that it may not be on the surface, but it's definitely there.
Right. And it's hard to understand because Fauci was actually on 60 Minutes in March saying that the masks do not protect you from anything.
Surgeon
And it
General
doesn't.
said it. Don't wear them.
I mean, and in fact, I think the Surgeon General or the medical professional over in England said it can actually make it worse. So I don't understand the mask thing either.
I've always, and culturally, I know that over in Japan and China, that they wore masks because of the pollutants.
Right. To pick
And
up particles.
yeah. And it's interesting because as we're talking here, I wonder how the immune system in those demographics and in those parts of the world, I wonder if anyone's done a study on that to see what the correlation is of an infection rate.
Right. So many times there aren't studies on certain things because they need money to do studies.
Mhm.
And if somebody doesn't have a vested interest in the outcome, they're not going to be funding it.
As I say, folks, big pharma is not out to cure you. There's no profit in cures. Maintaining your disease, that's what they want. It's true.
Ah,
And
well,
I have right here as you were talking, because we're required by law to go out. Apparently you have to have a mask on wherever you go. And, I've talked to more and more people, and they're just said, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
It's just, and you're right. I think we're going to start seeing cases of much more asthmatic type of lung problems. I don't know. It's one of those things that adds to stress and compromise the immune system.
Exactly. And it puts fear into like children, with their organs still forming and them having to wear these masks. And I think it instills subconsciously fear in people, and it gives them a false sense of protection. And I think it can do really a great damage to your especially children's
Yeah.
psyche.
Yeah.
So it's uh an interesting dilemma that we find ourselves in.
It seems like we're painting ourselves in the proverbial corner, uh, because when I think about this, and I've been doing a study, I'm working on a program on big pharma, and how if you look at the chemical composition of these drugs, you never stop and think about what it's doing to you in your body. And when we start reshuffling the balance that our bodies naturally try to maintain, it has these side effects. And, a great deal amount of the popular drugs, prescription drugs, stay for diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, and then you start getting into the antidepressants, antipsychotic drugs. All of these have this weird little warning that says that it will compromise your immune system.
Mhm. Right.
And yeah, all right.
And I have to admit, I talked to Dr. Bruce Lipton once, and he was speaking, and I was speaking with him afterwards. And we were talking about the pharmaceuticals because I was a nutritionist and nutrition counselor and chef for Larry Hagman when he was
Hmm.
struggling with throat cancer and diabetes. And they had him on like 20 kinds of medication, 3 of which were for diabetes, that also the side effect caused cancer. So he told me, he said, Nancy, there is no such thing as side effects. They are direct effects. Don't kid yourself.
Well stated, well stated. Because they are direct effects. I mean, um, this just gets me going because it's enslavement. And then they spring this kind of stuff on us. And it's almost like you and I were talking, and I said, what I was meditating on was the question, who's manifesting this?
Right.
I whoever it is, and it seems to be humanity. Then I'm wondering, what exactly are we doing to ourselves? I don't know.
It's almost like our earth is in a war between good and evil. It's
Seems that way, doesn't it?
it does.
And I love there's a line in the movie Cowboy and Aliens that the doctor, who was actually the preacher, said to the main actor Daniel, was that he says, I've seen bad men do good things, and I've seen good men do bad things. And the economy that we find ourselves in today is it's striking.
Right. I have to admit, I find that most people are good, creative, wonderful people. And we just need to help each other and connect. And um,
I think we can do better this. I say I think because every time I say I know, it's another bizarre thing happens, and I shake my head. I mean, you know, I love people, and this is not what humanity was meant for. Not to live in this type of um, insanity.
mhm.
I heard the one woman, uh, up in Minneapolis, and bless her heart, she was in her apparently in her 70s, and she was saying, "Why did you do this to me?" She says, "You burnt down my grocery store. I can't buy groceries. You burnt down the drugstore. I can't get my prescriptions. I don't have a car. They won't have public transportation." And I just thought to myself, why do we do this to ourselves? And I know it's off the topic, Nancy, so forgive me on that, but we live in a very different time.
We do, and we have to help each other, and we have to pray, and really, I think, join forces for the good of humanity, and maybe we can defeat the evil that's here. Because I understand the evil is a low vibration, and if we keep our vibration high and stay in joy, maybe we'll push them out.
I'm right there with you. And I said in the beginning of this year, and I had no way of knowing what this was going to be, that what we needed was a summer of healing. 1969, when we saw similar situations that America was in and the world was in. And what happened? Well, we gave birth to Woodstock, and we found that the youth of the world came together on the mere fact of music.
Yeah.
That music could express love, it could express emotions, and that you're right. I was part of that. My day was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And you know what? I grew up on the streets in Houston, and I never feared for anything, never felt threatened. And because all the people you would meet, granted, we were all hippies, we lived in the Montrose area, but at 2 o'clock in the morning when I was stoned on LSD, you'd meet someone else coming down the street, and you'd end up smoking a joint, and you parted ways. Didn't even know the guy's or the girl's name. Anyway.
I grew up in that era.
And I'm just expressing
I'm right there with you.
That's how it was, wasn't it?
It was very loving. It was and it's interesting, but one of the things that I do, if I find that I'm getting a lower vibration or feeling a little bit depressed, I'll put on things like the OJs and the Love Train.
Yes, exactly. And it's true. I mean,
I go back to my oldie goldies for sure.
I knew a girl, her name was Alex, and she was a free spirit, and a lot of us hitchhiked across the country, but she was doing this as a quest. And I remember talking to her after she had did one of her deals, and I said, "Did you ever feel threatened?" She says, "Not once, not once."
Interesting.
Yeah,
And it's like Woodstock. They had the rain, and they had all that stuff, and there was never any kind of violence. People were just kind to each other and helped each other. And I do believe that most of humanity is like that.
I think it is. I mean, I know we're reminiscing, but there was a place in Houston, Miller Park, downtown next to the zoo, and we would come out there every Sunday morning, and it was just kind of like a festival. You would have people that were playing acoustic guitars and what have you, and it was just kind of the Rascals grooving on a Sunday afternoon. And it's true. I mean, yeah, we were high, but you know what? We weren't throwing bottles at each other. We weren't spray painting everything. We were just digging each other.
That's one of my favorite groups.
See, we're psychically connected here. Folks, if you don't figure it out, Nancy and I obviously we did have a similar taste in music, et cetera, et cetera. But
those are very uplifting songs. And I literally have made a list of uplifting songs to send my friends and people that are finding themselves struggling with raising their vibration and feeling joy again. And it is a choice, and you can do it. But I have to admit, I will go and I will put on that uplifting 60s music frequently.
I
especially in today's
still,
day.
one of my favorite movies is The Big Chill, and it was a very depressing subject, the whole thing with suicide, Alex, the way, but it was so much indicative of the time where people could come together with diverse opinions, points of views, even have, sometimes heated discussions, but yet it was all done in that unity of, yeah,
Yeah, respecting each other and, agreeing to disagree.
yeah, yeah. I used to hang out because, I was on my own at 15 and all the people I hung out with were going to college. And I actually would go on campus and as an invite and sit in the back of the class. And I always loved the psychology classes. And at that time, um, there was the whole gay liberation, women's liberation, that was the whole coming in. And I just remember sitting in the student promenade and having discussions on issues that today you couldn't talk about. I mean, you'd be called either a bigot, a racist, a sexist, or whatever.
You know, I've noticed that our free speech is getting limited. And
Is there
people
free
are
speech? I haven't found that out. I mean, you know, I
and people get
demonetized this channel because it was at least that where we could have a little expression.
I have to admit, I'm a bit concerned about that right now, and I have
Yeah.
been speaking out against it. And
Oh,
I do think we're to a point where if you do nothing and you say nothing, then you're agreeing to what they're doing and what is going on. And so I find myself speaking out and um, letting people know that this is not all right with me, and I disagree with that particular thing. But
yeah. I
just
mean, my shirt is a expression. It says, I'm in defiance, be in defiance of ignorance, and embrace science because we need science in this situation. I mean, because theologically nothing's working. Ideology, that's just tearing us apart. And so I guess I'd like to put the challenge out to all those who listen to this. Find a scientist and let's see if we can start figure out how to change this in the world of physics.
sounds great.
I mean, we have to think out of the box. I mean, Nancy, it's frightening. It really is. And this affects our immune system.
It really does. And so, I would suggest to people, like you said, don't watch that mainstream news. And if you do, limit it, like 20 minutes, and get out of there because I think it can be addicting, and then
Well, you have to detox yourself afterwards.
you
You
do.
literally do. It's like, ugh, it smells, man.
You really do. And the way I see it is if there's something really important that you need to know, somebody will tell you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I use the term it's stinking thinking. Because it really is.
Oh my goodness.
You got stinky spirits, and now you got people with stinking thinking, and this is what we get. We need something, maybe hibiscus, something, sandalwood or petulia oil. And that was my favorite growing up. I had some puka shells, and anyway, I digress.
I will have to admit, essential oils are an awesome way to lift your spirits and also heal yourself. Or I shouldn't say heal. And do your own research. I'm not giving medical advice.
Yeah, yeah. All we're doing here is just talking. Don't take us seriously.
But really putting on essential oils and breathing them in, they can have antiviral effects. They can have antibacterial effects. They can help you detoxify from things like radiation, like rosemary oil will help you do that. And they really do lift your spirits. So I do keep a number of essential oils around for all kinds of things. But if you put it in a humidifier, especially
Mhm.
one like lemon, or
Mm.
pick one you really like, tea tree oil or peppermint or something like that, This
Lavender,
can lift your spirits. Lavender is awesome, and it can be
my
very
favorite.
calming, and it can also detoxify your environment because it will have those wonderful benefits of the antiviral, antibacterial in your environment. So, that's something that I really believe in and think is great. And I put rosemary oil on the bottom of my feet after a shower. And
Yeah, now we're
that
talking.
that helps pull radiation from your body. And if you are near cell phones or computers, you absorb a little bit of that. So you need
It's
to
all around us. I mean, I'm sitting in here going, "Oh, cripes!" Like, let's see, how many mega? Yeah, but that's exactly. It's very therapeutic. It puts me into a Zen mode. I mean, George Carlin, I think, said it the best. He said the best medicine he ever found, and he said, and like he said, I do indulge in the herb, but he said, when I finally reached the point in my life where he says, I don't give a shit. And he says, now I'm the most even type person because it just doesn't bother me.
Speaking of George Carlin, he has a really good video on YouTube on boosting the immunity.
I saw him. He is good. I like the one where he did on drugs. He says, we're a society of users. He says, we look on the corner and it says drugstore. It says prescriptions filled here. He says, if you have to have a store, and he says, not one, not two, but you have sometimes 3 or more. He says, what does that say for the society at large?
Absolutely. And, all these words, all these things that we see, they are programming us.
Yeah, yeah,
So
they
if
are.
you're watching TV and they're programming you, you've had an awesome show on that.
Yep. And it's still happening. And it's like, okay.
I share that with people all the time.
Do you?
How programmed are you?
And the thing about it is that the reprogramming, and Lynn and I were talking about this last night. I said, there is this massive reprogramming taking place in people. And then because everyone's glued to the media, everyone loves a good riot. And I told her, I said, I'm picking up a subliminal message going on here. And I said, this is really disturbing. And I'll just tell you, the way I see it is that they're conditioning us to begin to expect less.
Yes.
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 Driving down the expectation.
Right. And then the masks take out your humanity
And keep us apart.
You're not allowed to smile at each other.
Yeah.
And they actually can make you more ill. So it's, there's so many things going on that I find questionable. And if there's no science behind social distancing and all the science is against wearing masks if you're healthy, who and why is telling us to do this, and what is their agenda?
Again, here we go down memory lane because, I really dug the chicks I was with. I mean, I remember all their names, and, I liked holding hands. In fact, I tell you, I was the type of guy that always put my hand in, the gal's hip pocket. But today you get arrested for that.
Yeah.
You're shamed by society.
It's a wild world we find ourselves in.
It's like, what happened? I mean, what happened? I mean, the youth of today, we have a niece and, she graduated this year from high school, but it was like, it didn't happen. Everything that was supposed to happen, they didn't get. And now you can't even, as a young adult, hold hands because that is, not socializing your distance. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to admit, I disagree with almost all of those, probably pretty much all of the directives that were being handed out. So, I guess I'm kind of a renegade.
Well, and I was just thinking, because you and I have emailed, and we tried to get this thing going 2 weeks ago, and it was one thing after the other. But I was thinking that during this period of lockdown, I'm beginning, and they're seeing this now. The average weight gain is 7.2 pounds. And they found that due to the shortages, that more people were eating highly processed foods. And I thought to myself, well, there's a direct correlation to that, because if you're bringing in these sugars, these other artificial chemicals, that suppresses your immune system as well.
Oh, absolutely. And so many of those processed foods have MSG in them, which are addictive. And
Sodium,
that-
what is that? Sodium,
monosodium glutamate.
Monosodium glutamate.
So
Thank
it causes brain damage. It's an exocytotitan, and it makes you think what you're eating tastes good, but it quite literally, like electrocutes. This is what a brain surgeon said. I have this in some of my books, but it quite literally goes up in like the serotonin parts of your brain. It like electrocutes it, and so it can actually cause depression over a period of time if you eat enough of those particular types of foods, and they are addictive. And in fact, I know someone who was working at a fast food restaurant, and I won't mention the name of it, but they were quite literally, he was so shocked, they were injecting this into each piece of meat before they were cooking it. And there's no legal limit in the US to how much they can put in your food. And it is a synthetic chemical, and our bodies aren't meant to absorb synthetic things. In fact, research shows me that when we ingest things that are chemicals like that, it harms our health and can cause cancer. And so it's good to try to eat whole real food if you possibly can. And if you're not able to get some healthy unprocessed foods, try growing some sprouts or something in your kitchen. Order some seeds online, some organic non-GMO seeds, and like the broccoli would be a really good one. It's got a lot of sulforaphane in it, and you can just have anybody wants to let me know, I'll give you directions on how to do that. But you can grow your own sprouts, and those are powerful foods that have intense nutrition. A sprout will have 40% more nutrition in it than the full-grown plant. And so if you eat a whole bunch of sprouts, you're getting intense nutrition, and that can really help you, because what you ingest becomes your blood, your cells, in your tissues. There's no way it cannot directly affect you.
Can I say something on that? And this, you can fact check me on this, but because I haven't heard it ever talked about. So we know that the human body, when it ingests food, it's basically ingesting an already converted energy. Typically, it's a plant, could be an animal. When that comes into us, then we, within the middle of our stomach, where we call the second brain, actually does this transmutation of energy, dispersing it to the cells of the body. The thing that makes processed food so dangerous, Nancy, is this.
Sorry.
That's all right. Hello.
This is Pinky.
Hello, Pinky. Is that processed foods, guess what? They have no energy in it. There's nothing of the body that even when the body digests that stuff, it's empty of life. The energy is, you could say, for all intents and purposes, is a negative energy.
I'll agree with you. And there are quite a few studies that would back you up on that. There's a Dr. P-O-P-P, who's been studying the frequency of food for decades now. And he's been studying how every food, and he's done so many different tests on humanely raised chickens' eggs, or chickens' eggs that are in these inhumane types of environments. And he's found that food that has a high harmonic frequency, that when it goes into your DNA, it causes your body, it tells your body to heal itself. But
Yeah.
if you are ingesting a food that has like a fractured frequency, so say something that's genetically modified or microwaved or chemically derived, something like that, it are grown with these chemicals, it will have this fractured frequency. And when it goes into your DNA, he's found that it actually tells your body to make cancer cells. And so the dead food would have like no frequency. So but it's got those chemicals in it. And so there's a Dr. Tony Gibbons, who is a cancer research doctor, and he was looking into food and what feeds cancer and what doesn't feed cancer. And he was wondering about honey. Does honey feed cancer? Everybody says sugar feeds cancer. Well, he found that all of these foods have molecules in them with electrons that either revolve to the left or they revolve to the right. And the ones that revolve to the left are natural, organic, what I would call God-given foods in their most natural form. And they do not feed cancer. They support your health. And so honey is one of those. Whereas the ones that had the electrons that revolve to the right, that feed disease, that feed cancer, those are the genetically modified. Those are the microwave. Those are the chemically derived. Those are the ones that have been basically tampered with by man, right?
Mhm.
So it is important to eat these foods that are living foods, like a real apple, something like that, because they have live enzymes in them and they aren't dead. And so many people, as we have a limited amount of enzymes in our body, and as we age, we use those up. So when we start chewing, for instance, we tell our mind that we're going to eat something and we start making digestive enzymes. And for instance, you're a gum chewer. If you chew gum, you are really wasting your enzymes, because you're telling your body that you're going to digest food and then you're not using them and you're wasting those enzymes. So you become depleted. And when our enzymes are gone, we quite literally die. So eating whole real food, like an apple, for instance, will bring about 40% of the enzymes you need in order to digest it with it. Whereas food that is processed does not do that. And so you have to utilize more of your enzymes in order to process that. And if you aren't chewing your food well and maybe drinking liquids with your meal, and you're watering down your digestive enzymes, then you're probably not digesting that food properly. And this is where people get in a lot of trouble, is they get undigested food down in their intestinal tract, and it starts to rot, and they can't get it out of their intestinal tract. And that's where most of our immune system lies. That's where we absorb our nutrition and our nutrients. That's where the prebiotics are. Prebiotics are the thick fibers that your immune system feed on. And so if you're not eating fiber-rich food, like, for instance, the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or cauliflower or cabbage that have these thick fibers in them that can feed your immune system, or if your intestinal tract is challenged, then it's very hard for you to be healthy or have an immune system. And so, you want to not drink liquids with your meals. And you definitely don't want to have cold liquids when you're getting ready to eat, because that will just shut down your digestive system for an hour and a half. So, it's just little stuff, but, it's easier to do than you think. Sometimes we just get into these habits, like, we go into a restaurant, the first thing they do is put a glass of water with your meal. And so people, no matter how healthy their food is, they may not be chewing it as well as they would normally if they didn't have something to wash it down with. And if it's like iced tea, like they serve here in Texas, or cold
Sweet
lemonade.
tea too, sweet tea. Honey, you
Yeah.
want that sweetened tea or unsweetened?
That's right. So it's just, kind of changing a little lifestyle habit and just learning to do a few things differently that can really make a big difference.
As you're talking about this, and I did some study on this. So you have what they call the IBS thing that attacks, and I'm surprised that it's hitting people in their 20s, irritable bowel syndrome. And they call it Crohn's disease, they call it a number of other things, but these digestive issues have become much more broader than I think most people realize. A lot of people suffer from incontinence. A lot of people, like you said, they have to have some sort of digestive aid, laxative, that can do what the body was naturally should do.
Right. And just eating, more fresh fruits and vegetables, making sure you have a whole piece of fruit every day in its whole real form, not as a juice. You can get enough vitamin C for that day. And vitamin C in your body will do all kinds of wonderful things. And if you get enough vitamin C, according to Dr. Levy, who's a cardiologist and a lawyer, who's written quite a few books on this subject, he says that it can quite literally destroy all viruses. And so if you want to stay healthy, there was a Dr. Klenner in Tennessee, I believe it was Tennessee, that Dr. Levy really admires his work and quotes his work and his studies in a clinical hospital setting, that he was curing things like polio and just about everything. And towards the end of his practice, he was just having his medical staff put people on vitamin C IV as soon as they came in his office before he even saw them.
Well,
It was
I'm
just
a big
so
believer
fantastic.
in it. We keep this, and I consume vitamin C all during the day, and I have found, and I haven't suffered from a cold in years.
Vitamin C is amazing, and it's water soluble, so we need to replenish it daily. But I like the liposomal vitamin C's. Dr. Levy has said recently that he thinks it's as powerful as an IV. And I get one that's made from sunflowers.
Really? Now, where can people get information? I put your contact information, but I know you have books. I know you have you have a newsletter that goes out, and you should sign up for that, folks, if you're not, because Nancy she puts out quality stuff that can actually help you. But and Nancy, if there's something else I need to do in the description page, send me that information. We'll definitely get it in there. But where can people get your book? How can they sign up for your newsletter, etc.?
You're so kind. And my name is Nancy Addison with 2 D's.
Yeah, I said Allison. I know it. I saw that after I multitask too often. I'll change that.
That's all right. And my website's Organic Healthy Life, life.com. And you can, I've got my books linked through there, and my newsletter sign up is in the banner at the top. And you can contact me that way if you have any questions, or you can get through me through Wayne, who's become one of my favorite friends.
Now, do you do consulting work? Because there are people that are facing challenges, and when I say challenges, I mean the ultimate one, that how much longer are they going to be here?
I have to admit, I do counsel people, and I feel like it's my mission. I take it. I'm a very heartfelt counselor.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. We can make this world a better place. I just know it.
Listen, the basis of science is that like replicates like, and I still say all it takes is a small portion of humanity, and I think we can change a lot of this. And unfortunately, with the way our society is today, the way that modern society has become, it's very toxic. and it's very dangerous in a lot of ways. Food today, I never would have thought of this, but food in many ways can become very dangerous because it's
Yeah.
not food.
Yeah, and you have to really become a detective at the store and read
Yeah.
through that advertising that they put on the front. It can really be misleading, and I've gotten to where I have to call companies and say, "What exactly is this made out of?" You know, because I'll have clients say, "I'm taking this," and I'll say, "Is it made out of food? Is it chemical?" And I'll call the company and they'll say, "Oh no, we're all plant-based or something." And I'll say, "But what food is it made out of?" And I will tell you what, more times than not, these companies get back to me and they are not made out of food. They are chemically derived in there. So you want on your ingredient list to list organic broccoli or organic cabbage or
I just heard a new term. Yes, we're very health oriented here. We have organic chemicals.
that is a new term.
And you're going, is that good or is that bad? Because I do most of the shopping for our house, and I started baking because I got tired of seeing the nonsense that was out there. And so baking, I know what I'm actually eating. I know what Lynn is eating. And I make oh man, I make a righteous chocolate chip banana nut bread. And I'm just telling you, it's just, yeah. But anyway,
That
because
sounds awesome.
it is awesome. It is delicious. But, and that's how I do with the cooking as well, is that I look at what's on the shelf, and even looking at what is supposed to be organically grown, I have no idea really where that cucumber came from. That's why I'm growing my own. But yeah.
That's true. And so all my books are half cookbook because a lot of people grew up on fast food and they don't know how to cook. So all my books have easy recipes in them that are good
Apparently that's very
guidelines.
much needed. I mean, one of the things they found as the result of this lockdown was that a large percentage of 20 somethings didn't even know what a can opener is.
Wow.
Mhm. We know one such young lady, and this is not, but they don't keep food. They don't keep food in their refrigerator or they're in their pantries. And it's like, yeah, folks, let's start talking about this.
A little new lifestyle switch
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and you're young and you can do this, don't let it get into your 40s or something. Yeah, it's an amazing time we live in, but I do believe, Nancy, that we can change that. I don't think it's that difficult. Sometimes it's just small steps.
Right. I
Like,
think more of us are connected than we think.
yeah, I think so. I would say, for instance, cut out all carbonated drinks. You don't need them.
Yeah.
Throw them out.
Well, and those aren't hydrating, and hydration is critical for protecting your body from anything, including electromagnetic field. So you want to drink. I would suggest drinking a big, huge, warm glass of water first thing in the morning before you do anything else, and hydrate, flush out the toxins that have built up overnight in your organs. And it also opens up your blood vessels and really gets your blood flowing. And I think anybody who has constipation problems, that is a key thing to do that can really help. And that has like no side effects except except good benefits.
Yeah. I'm convinced that, when you talk about dehydration, I think a vast majority of people are dehydrated most of the time.
I would agree with you. In
Yeah.
fact, the chronic disease is literally, in many studies, shown to be chronic intercellular dehydration.
Bingo. Where I live, 6,000 feet elevation, you have to keep hydrated here or you'll suffer from it.
Oh yeah, and I mean I drink those glasses of warm water every morning, and usually I drink two.
Wow. Okay.
before I ever do anything else. I just hydrate and flush all those toxins out that have built up overnight. Because when we sleep, we detoxify and we heal. And
Yes.
so if
Yeah.
anybody's having trouble sleeping, you might need to add some magnesium chloride to your diet. It's another water soluble mineral that you need to replenish every day. And that can really help with anxiety and stress, and it can help you sleep more effectively. But Epsom salts is all chemically derived mostly today. That's like a generic term because that
Mm.
mine was completely depleted many, many, many years ago. And so the magnesium chloride is actually more effective. It can absorb more effectively with less tissue harm. And the magnesium chloride that they mine in the US is a really good one. And you can have it in bath salt flakes, or you can have it topically as a lotion, and or it can be in like leafy greens, things like that. But if you're having any trouble sleeping or anxiety problems, that can really help.
Excellent. Excellent. I remember my grandparents having milk of magnesia. I don't even know if they even sell that anymore.
I don't know.
It was in the dark blue bottle, and but I believe that because it also had, was primarily magnesium.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, they used to sell Physoderm too, but they don't sell that anymore. You
Yeah.
remember the day when they, you know,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I had
Yeah, there are
friends.
a lot of things that are very difficult to get these days.
Yeah, because they worked. They actually worked. I mean, I had friends who suffered from acne, and they would use the Physohex. So, well, that's Nancy. I've kept you over, and it is Addison. I do that, and it's a mental block. So,
That's all right.
it's just who I am. Well, I just want to thank you. It's educational, it's informative, and it's fun being around you. I love when you come on. It's just a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and love
Folks,
it.
get on her mailing list. And listen, if you've got challenges in your body, this is a person, email her. She'll actually write you back. So, and we all want everybody. David Barry says milk and magnesia was nasty. It was, but you know what? I can still taste that damn chalky taste. I mean, but the old wise tales and the old ways that they used to do to cure people, I think they were some of the best pioneer ways. Anyway. All right, folks. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Nancy, again. Hold on. And folks, we appreciate it. Again, go over there, buy your books. It's well worth it. You will enjoy it. Thank you, everyone. We will see you later on. All right. Bye-bye.